Okay, we are reacting to the news that Slavisa Jokanvoic has departed Sheffield United, and we already know that he's been replaced by Paul Heckingbottom. Get your comments in on this. We are live at the moment. You put your comments in after the fact. Jokanvoic has only been in charge for 19 games. Sheffield United are 16th in the table. Remember, the background to this is that Sheffield United went on a crazy, ridiculous rise up the leagues under Chris Wilder, didn't they? Scored 100 points in League One, stabilised in the Championship, then brilliantly in 18-19, got promoted. Then, even probably more brilliantly or equally brilliantly, finished 9th in the Premier League. However, history and statistical observation tells us that in terms of economics and sport and population, all incredibly quick rises tend to be followed by crashes. They tend to be unsustainable. And if something is going to rise, it tends to be better to do it gradually. And unfortunately, Sheffield United's incredibly quick rise fell off a cliff, didn't it? For whatever reasons, we've been over that over and over again, inertia, whatever. I just said, a big rise is always followed by a crash. Going into year 4 with the same players that had dragged them up. Whatever, bad spending in the Premier League, COVID, empty stadiums. We've heard a million theories. We're not here to talk about that today. But what that did mean is that Chris Wilder departed Sheffield United earlier this year. Can't remember quite when. Maybe March. Does that add up? Forgive me if I got that wrong, but I'm trying to pull that information out of my head. However, it was fairly acrimonious, and Wilder was the hometown hero and Blades fan that had got into the dugout and taken them up. Bit of a fallout with Prince Abdullah, we think. Wilder's been fairly quiet on this, hasn't he? And he's obviously piped up at Middlesbrough 2 games ago. Prince Abdullah was not very quiet about this, and he basically said he tried everything to keep Wilder there, and Wilder had tried to leave and all of this stuff and wanted a huge compensation payout, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't there. I don't know. But what I think it is fair to assume is that it wasn't very friendly, I think, between Wilder and Prince Abdullah going back to that decision. And of course, I don't know how much of a wedge that drove, but it certainly didn't ingratiate Prince Abdullah, I think, with the Blades fans. They're obviously going to side with Wilder, who had such a good history. And even though they were having a terrible, terrible season and ultimately going to get relegated, fans will side with the hometown hero, rightly or wrongly, won't they? What then happened, and this name is going to be important, is that Paul Heckingbottom was put in temporary charge, wasn't he? Heckingbottom, who managed Barnsley and famously for only 15 or 16 games until Victor Orta realised he could get Bielsa at Leeds, managed Leeds, didn't he? He was on the staff at Sheffield United. I think he was the under-23s guy, and I think he was still doing that. And then, so he was caretaker manager at the end of last season. Now, at the start of this season, in comes Slavisa Jokanvoic, who famously was the 4th manager of the season in 2014-15 when Watford got promoted. So he has that promotion on his CV, but far more viably, Jokanvoic had a really good promotion with Fulham on his CV, and Fulham were coming off the back, I think. Maybe they were 1 year, or were they still getting parachute payments when they went up? I can't quite remember, but it was a very good promotion. They went on a late run in 16-17, I think, missed out and went up in the playoffs. Am I right? Yes, in 17-18, beat Villa in the final. Really, really good side that Jokanvoic fashioned, played nice, patient possession football. They did have Mitrovic on loan, and we all know what Mitrovic does in the Championship. He scores most games and just bullies the opposition, doesn't he? They did have Ryan Sessegnon as well, who was the Championship Player of the Year in 17-18, but a brilliantly fashioned midfield 3 with Kearney, Johansson and McDonald, blah, blah, blah. So in comes Jokanvoic to Sheffield United at the start of this season. And for whatever reason, it just has not worked. And I'm sure we'll get lots of different viewpoints on this. And I think they're going to split into two camps here. One camp will say Jokanovic was terrible and it didn't work and he was the wrong guy for this club at this time. And I think the other side of the argument will be Jokanovic didn't get his players, didn't get any spend, didn't have enough time to employ his system, and maybe if they'd left him, it would have worked. I think those are the two views we're going to get. And I think there's probably an element of truth in both, isn't there? Far be it for me to go right down the middle and let you lot duke it out in the comments. But in terms of it not working and Jokanovic not doing very well, when you look at the quality of the squad, and often people argue, oh, Ben, they're aging and, the squad needs refreshing. Yes, I agree. But they're 16th in the league. And don't tell me that you can't fashion at least a top 10 team out of, say, Olsen, who's an international goalkeeper, Ben Davies, who starred for Preston, John Egan, promoted before Chris Basham. Obviously, I can say promoted for most of them. Reece Norrington-Davies starred for Stoke and Luton. Jayden Bogle starred for Derby. Baldock and Stevens, star wingbacks before for Wilder. Norwood has dominated in this division, been promoted loads and loads of times. So has Luke Freeman for QPR, maybe not for Sheffield Wednesday. Ben Osborne, good player for Forest. John Fleck's done well in this division. Conor Hourihan's been promoted a couple of times from this division. Morgan Gibbs-White. Sander Berger could probably be one of the best players in the division when fit. And then Brewster and McBurney have done really well for Swansea in this division. Billy Sharp always scores goals. You take my point that for those making the argument that he did a very bad job with his resources, that's a fairly reasonable argument. I like Jokanovic a lot, by the way, and we will never know in whatever parallel universe how well he would have done if he'd done one whole season or two whole seasons or maybe even three. The duration of the parachute payment, which is kind of how we judge managers of relegated teams. How do they do? Can you ring fence and make a business plan and strategy whilst you've got that extra money that seems to exert some dominance? And Tracy Crouch, in her fan-led review, agrees with what most of what we've been saying on this channel for the last 4 years, which is kind of nice affirmation. Now, the other argument is that what did Sheffield United do in the transfer window in terms of giving Jokanovic's players? Well, they lost Ramsdale, which was obviously going to happen. They kept Berger. I honestly thought Berger would have been gone. But who did they bring in? Conor Hourihan on loan. Morgan Gibbs-White is very good on loan. Adelin Guediora, he's aging. Ben Davies, he's good on loan. But Ilman and Dye got a new contract, didn't he? But in terms of did Jokanovic get either funds or time to implement his strategy, which we've seen is like a 4-3-3 with inside forwards and rotation in midfield? Did he get time or money to do that? No, he didn't. So, I mean, that's fact, isn't it? He got a few loan players, but otherwise, I mean, obviously Fulham went for it big style, but when you look at Wilson and Muniz and Chalobah and whoever else has gone in at Fulham this summer, they brought in players to play in the first team and get things moving in the Championship. Maybe it's not a fair comparison. Maybe it is. They're both year one parachute teams, aren't they? So, so I'm not entirely sure where I fall on this. I like Jokanovic. I can't argue that he didn't do a good job with his resources. I do think he didn't get a lot of time and he didn't get his players, but hey, maybe it was never going to work. We'll never know. He's gone. So I'd be very, very interested to know your guys' thoughts. And I do accept the argument, however flimsy it comes across. Sometimes some people just don't fit at a certain club. They just don't. And maybe it's a big job at Sheffield United to follow Wilder and that extreme rise followed by the one season quick fall down. I don't know. Anyway, what I do know is if I head over to the Sheffield United website, that we know contrary to any rumours this morning about Neil Warnock or Daniel Farker or whoever, the Paul Heckingbottom is going to be the new manager. So what you think of that in respects of a comparison to Jokanovic, I don't know. Let's read from this statement. Sheffield United and Jokanovic have parted company, with Paul Heckingbottom installed as the club's football manager. Now, what is very, very clear is that Heckingbottom is Prince Abdullah's guy, isn't he? Because when Wilder went, Heckingbottom in as caretaker, he's kept at the club, and now he's tried Jokanovic, and here we go. Heckingbottom is his new guy. And I'm sure they're going to tell us all about Heckingbottom's. Oh, God, that's sticking the boot in a little bit. Yorkshireman Heckingbottom, sorry, I'm just going to read from the second paragraph. Takes charge of the club's football business immediately, agreeing a contract through to the end of the 2025-26 season. How long is that? 21. So we're 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24. It's like a 4.5 year contract, isn't it? Crikey, dearie me, that's long, isn't it? I wonder what get outs and what salary he's on there. Goodness me. Following several months of strategic planning and a lackluster start to the season, ouch, the board decided that a change was in the best long-term interest of the club. Heckingbottom, we've mentioned, was caretaker manager last season. Previously managed Barnsley, Leeds and Hibs. I didn't mention Hibs. I suppose his finest hour was Barnsley, I guess. He built up that team that had Hurahan in, actually, at Barnsley. Who else did they sell? James Bree. They sold all their best players, didn't they, in the mid-season? There we go. Chairman Yusuf, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his second name. We look forward to embarking on a new era in Blades football with Paul at the helm. Paul possesses the personal leadership qualities and technical football skills the board feels are essential to successfully implement the board's strategic directives. He shares our values. It's very diggy at Jokanovic. Apparently he didn't, because he'd still be there if he did. An interest in player development, whilst also possessing the ambition and determination to get the most out of our current squad. This is very damning with faint praise, isn't it? We're convinced that Paul will play a leading role in improving all aspects of football operations. So there you go. Am I bowled over by Paul Heckingbottom at Sheffield United? No, honestly, I'm not. Or, he could turn out to be a brilliant manager. And God, a contract to 2026. Tell me in the comments the percentage chance of him still being the manager at the end of the 25-26 season. I suspect low odds of that one, but I don't know. I suppose they'd argue they tried the big name with the promotions on his CV, and Heckingbottom's been around at the club, but it does really feel like he is Prince Abdullah's guy, and he's given his guy the top job. Is that always the best idea? I don't know. I don't know what the relationship is there, and how or what methods he's used in terms of gentle persuasion, if he's got Prince Abdullah's ear to parlay his way into that job. I'm not asserting anything nefarious, but I don't know how he's done it, because you would think a year one parachute job at a big club like Sheffield United, they'd have people knocking down the door to come and take that job outside of a Premier League job. A year one parachute job is the best one, I think, in English football. So there we go. I'll go to your comments now, because we are live, and you can comment after the fact, of course. And I'll just say, Jokanovic, I'm halfway between acknowledging that he didn't do a very good job at all, and they didn't look like they were going anywhere fast, but also he didn't get his players and he didn't get a lot of time. I don't know, because I haven't got a crystal ball, whether that would have written itself out, sorted itself out in the future. But I think my overriding thing is I do like Jokanovic from what he did at Fulham. So I suppose I'm slightly more towards he didn't get time or he didn't get any of his players. But that's not to rule out the other. He could have just been the wrong guy at the wrong time. And Heckingbottom does feel a little bit like a guy who was already there, who's already been there, who's literally already been the manager. Why not? If he was the right guy, if he's the right guy now, why not just keep him through from last season? Why even bother bringing Jokanovic in? That feels like a waste of 16 games. I know, easy with 2020 hindsight. Let's have a look at some comments then. Good. What are we going to say here? I'm scrolling up here. Justin Jokanovic was under the impression a bigger overhaul of the squad was needed. However, the board disagreed. That's a joke. Slav is right. Our board are a joke. We are going down. Well, there you go. Justin's made his feelings clear there. Jokanovic must have been a dead man walking already before they get... Apparently so. When you read their statement, Steve, seems the board and manager was singing from different hymn sheets. Very much so, doesn't it? Heckingbottom to 2026. Goodness me. Ollie, hi Ben, I've blown hot and cold on Jokanovic this season, as most players have, but I think it's the wrong call. He needed time to build a squad to play his way. Lots of Fulham Watford fans saying this too. Stuart McCall to be his assistant. I do like Stuart McCall. Thought he was a good player. Roland never seemed happy when interviewed, or is that just his natural demeanour? I think it's a little bit of both. He does have that deep voice and kind of delivery, doesn't he? But yeah, obviously he wasn't a happy place, wasn't it? Jake, it was obvious signings were badly needed. Thought it looked positive when they got Slav in early on, but it was just a big name to paper over the cracks. Heckingbottom probably the best they'll attract now. I agree with most of that, Jake, but I think a lot of managers, unless Prince Abdullah's got a very bad reputation amongst football people that we don't know, I think a lot of managers would have liked to have gone and done that job. Lenny, 4.5 deal seems bizarre. Seems long, doesn't it? I wonder if there's get outs, isn't it? 1889 Blade, no issue of Heckingbottom coming in. Issue is the length of the deal. Should have been till the end of the season. Does seem excessively long. Seems a long contract given Heckingbottom's relatively modest CV. Didn't Jokanovic come in before pre-season? Yeah, I think he was there for the pre-season. It took him a while to get the deal done, though. I don't know the exact date. Wayne Jokanovic should have been given time like he was given at Fulham. Steve, going through the list of players, it's shocking that they are sitting in 16th. El Dorito, a year he got us promoted. I think we were 12th at this stage. Very, very true. I mean, that was a hell of a run at the end of the season. But the point El Dorito is making stands up that given time at Fulham, it worked. Can only think Heckingbottom on a small wage. Well, for that length contract, unless there is get-outs, etc. Yes, man appointment. Not my words, El Dorito's words, but I don't know whether I am alluding to that or not. I don't know. I'm not there. Man United, Ole vibes. Changed to a 3-4-3 over the last 2 games. Had us looking a lot better at the back. Things were moving in the right direction. Really frustrating. Plucky Jokanovic had to go wrong fit for Sheffield United. He's not a bad manager. Going nowhere with him. Grumpy Heckingbottom won't have to worry about sack either. He'll just goes back to the under-23s. Brilliant move on his part. There you go.